I'm Bishop Steve Breedlove from the Diocese of Christ Our Hope, and I had the privilege of starting the Anglican Missional pastor program in my home back in 2009 when I was a parish priest. And since then, we've seen about 8 cohorts that have developed in partnership with other dioceses. And I'm really excited that Bishop Lebhar from the Gulf Atlantic Diocese and Archbishop Foley and Bishop Lyons, and represented by Canon George from the Anglican Diocese of the South, that you guys are working together to do an AMP cohort with the American Anglican Council. And I'm here just to answer any questions or tell some stories about it, because I got a lot to say about it.
Well, first of all, we're fully supportive. And I was thinking through my encouragement of my clergy in the diocese, Proverbs 18:15 came to mind, which says, an intelligent heart acquires knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeks knowledge. And so we're really understanding that clergy have to keep growing in what they know and know how to do. Can you just give a couple of examples of the kind of things that have been helpful to clergy in the past as they go through this program?
It's created a culture of lifelong learning. It's created a sense that you can learn effective tools that are easily accessible. You don't have to go to conferences across the country, but you actually have so many resources within a few hours drive of every clergy in the Anglican Diocese and the Anglican Church in North America. And then you've got teams of people that are working together and spurring each other on. So it's created learning communities, lifelong learning communities. I really actually was on my own almost my entire life until I became an Anglican. And I envy those people who formed learning communities deeply committed to one another early in their ministries, and they carried it through life. And that's what we've seen happen in cohort after cohort, lifelong learning communities, easily accessible. We got great materials and great resources right around the corner if we knew how to access them. And that's what develops in these programs.
So an example of something somebody learned that made a difference for them?
Well, I mean, I can think about the fact that we had a visiting professor from BC who came a couple of times to talk to us about the power of the gospel and the thread of the gospel in the culture. And so as a result of that, I could name pastor after pastor after pastor in those 2 first cohorts who were ready and prepared to think through how do we respond to the issues of human identity that we're facing right now, or how do we respond, or where do we get answers for issues of sexual attraction or transgenderism, or all the kinds of things, because we were talking about that stuff, frankly, a decade ago, and looking at how do we begin to approach that biblically, and how do we get theological and biblical and spiritual resources for our ministries.
So one question that keeps coming up is, what tools do I get to add to my toolkit from going through this program?
Well, for one thing, it's a 22 session, it's 2 years, but 22 sessions, and you'll read 22 books. So you've got a big library all of a sudden, and each of those libraries represents a bibliography of information. And so you've got just the tools of that. Another tool for your toolbox is what I was referring to before, which is actually the knowledge, Sean, that there's a pastor that I didn't know about that's phenomenal at catechism or catechetical training. And he's doing a great job. So when I'm developing that, I know that I can call up somebody that I've met and talked to and work that through with him. So the tools in the toolboxes are both resources, books and other information, but the other huge tool is relationships and people that you know and you can talk to. It's been phenomenal to see the networking and development and really the building of momentum in our own diocese around people who are really, really good at liturgy or catechesis or discipling children or discipling youth or ministering to people in crisis of death or issues of, like I said, human sexuality. And so we've had those conversations, and those people and resources and books and so on are networked into the cohort through that.
So let me turn a question on the head that we were talking about before, which is, what's the cost of not doing something like this?
Thanks, Neil. I think that's a great question. I think the cost of not doing this is that you may miss a phenomenal opportunity to build a habitual life process into your ministry, which is how do you face head on into the stiff wind of the culture? How do you face head on into the stiff winds of pastoral leadership, of how do you lead a vestry, all those kinds of issues. So even just the methodology of understanding that these are things that there are answers for, you can think about this, you can talk to people, you can learn, you can grow. So again, I said this at the beginning, lifelong learning is a way of, it's a culture, it's a shaping of our soul. And this may be one of the best opportunities that a person would ever have to move into lifelong learning for the rest of their ministries.
And Bishop, if there's anyone on the fence about joining the program, what sort of advice would you have for them?
It's worth the money. It's really worth the money. First of all, there's a lot of resources. Most churches will come alongside of a pastor. If they realize the vision for this, they'll go, we want this. This is a great way to do continuing ed. We've had report after report, testimony after testimony of people saying this has reshaped my entire ministry. And it's more than the sum total of the pieces. It's a spirit-inspired or spirit-infused transformational process. And so to be transformed as a pastor, to be in this lifelong transformation in my own soul, in my own ministry, so that's normative. It's normative for me to be growing. Wow, that's a great gift.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. This is really helpful.
Good.
We'll get the word out.
Great. Super. Thanks.